Okay, so before Maverick goes home, we're going to go over his commands and show you how you can stay consistent once you get home with him. So, his first command is heel. This is loose leash walking on your left hand side. So your leash should be relaxed, your arms should be nice and relaxed into your side. You should barely know he's there. He should walk right next to you. He should be paying attention to you. This is heel. This is 80 to 85% of your walks now. This is his new normal. He's not allowed to pull. He's not allowed to walk ahead of you. Nothing like that. He's walking right next to you at your pace. This is your walk. He gets to go along with you. So again, he's at your pace, walking right along next to you. No tension on the leash. He should be right next to you. So again, this is 80 to 85% of your walks. The other 20 to 25% can be when he's in a free. This can give him time to sniff, time to go to the bathroom, anything like that. But again, that's only 20 to 25%. And to do that, you would tell him free, and he knows that that means he can go sniff in the grass, go potty, anything like that. But heel is loose leash walking on the left hand side with a nice relaxed arm, relaxed leash, no tension on that collar, because then he'll get used to it and it won't work. His next command is sit. This is a sit stay until you tell him free. So you'd put him into a sit, and we don't say stay because that's one more word that he has to remember. So we would just repeat sit, and the stay is implied until you say free. So if you wanted to take him for a walk and you put him into a sit, if you wanted to go put your shoes on while he's still in a sit, you would just remind him sit, and then you would go get your shoes on, and then when you were ready for him to get back up, you could say free, or you could say heel if you wanted him to go right into walking next to you again. So that's his sit stay. Again, the stay is implied. We don't say stay, we just say sit and remind him sit when we go do something else or when we step away from him. His next command is a down stay. So the down is implied. He can sit first and then lay down, or he can go straight into a down, whichever is easier for him. He does usually tend to sit down first and then lay down, just because it's easier for him and it's less confusing. But if he weren't to go into that down right away, you would just correct him with a little bit of leash pressure in a downward motion. That way he knows that he's supposed to be going in that direction. So for a sit, you would pop the leash back or up to get him into the sit position if he didn't sit down right away. But if you want him to lay down and he doesn't down right away, you would just give him a little tug down, and that will help him know which direction he's going into. So you would say down. If he doesn't go into the down, you would then use the leash pressure. But if he goes into a down, you would remind him down if you were to step away or go put shoes on or do anything else and you wanted him to stay. Again, the stay is implied for everything. So to get him to stay in a down, you would just remind him by saying down, and then you could go do what you needed. To get him up from a down, you would say free or heel, whatever you wanted him to do next. But again, to get him to go into a down, you would say down. If he doesn't go into that down right away, just a little pop of the leash in a downward motion towards the ground so that he knows which way he's going. Then he lays down, and you would remind him down if you wanted him to stay. So that's down. His next command is place. That is the stay on an elevated boundary. So I sent you the recommendations that I have for the beds, but you can use anything, any type of bed. We just use the elevated bed because it's easier for him to know whether he's on it or not. Unlike if it were a fluffy bed or a towel or something like that, it would be harder for him to know if he was on it or not and doing what he was supposed to do, because there's not that elevation where he has to step up to get onto it. So place is stay on an elevated boundary. He has to again stay until you release him, but the stay is implied. So you would take him to place or send him to place, and then his job is to stay on the elevated bed or the boundary until you release him. This can be used especially if you're having guests over and you don't want him to get too excited when they get to the door. You'd send him to place. Or when you guys were eating and you didn't want him begging for your food or right underneath your feet at the table, you would send him to place. This gives him a job to do and just gives him something to do so he's out of your way if you guys are busy or have people coming over, or you just need him to be calm for a little bit. So you would put him on place. Always reward this command so that it's exciting for him. So put treats on the bed. We reward on the bed so that he thinks that the bed is producing the treats. But you would say place, you would reward him on the bed. and then you could give him toys or his food on that bed. His only job is to stay calm and be quiet on the bed and to stay on the bed. So if he's barking or whining or tries to get off, you would correct that with either the remote collar or his leash and collar. But if he's staying on it, we want to reward that. We want this to be exciting for him, and we want him to be comfortable on the place bed so that he's more likely to go onto it on his own. So again, place is a stay on an elevated boundary, and then when you wanted him to get off, again, his release command is free, but we don't free from a distance. So if you wanted him to get off of the bed, you wouldn't call him from the other side of the room or call him from a distance. You would go right up to the bed. You can reward him if you want, but you would go right next to the bed and then say free. That way he's more likely to stay on the bed in the future and not want to get off and get to you for the treats. We want to make sure to go back and reward and then free him from right next to him so that he's less likely to get off on his own and more likely to stay on there for longer periods of time. So that's place. His next command is recall or come when called. This is come from a distance, so it's not like heel when you want him to walk right next to you. This is calling him from point A to point B. So you're at point B and he's at point A somewhere sniffing in the yard or anything like that. You would say come. That means come running next to me, or come right back to me, come run to me. So you want him to immediately turn his head and start running towards you. You want to be fun and exciting. You have to be more exciting than the yard or the grass or a leaf or anything else that's out there in the yard. So you would say come, and you want him to turn his head and come running towards you. You want to be exciting and welcoming. So good boy, good job, woohoo. Be really exciting when you want him to come into your space. That way, again, he thinks that you're more exciting than anything that's out there. You always want to reward this command. So every single time that he comes back to you, you want to have treats on you or a toy on you, something that he really enjoys. That way he's always likely to come back to you. So you want to reward this command. Again, if you have treats, that's perfect. That's how we've done it here, is rewarding him with treats. So as soon as he starts coming back to me, I say, good job, good boy, Maddie. And then I give him a target. Since Maverick's a really excited, jumpy dog, we want to give him a target. That way he's less likely to jump when he comes back to us because he is so excited. So we want to give him a target. So we put the treats in our hand, and then I always put the treats on my thigh. That way he has a low target to go to. So he comes running towards me, he puts his nose to my hand, and I open my hand and give him the treats as soon as he gets back to me. And then if he sits, you can give him more treats. You want him to sit, wait a few seconds, give him more treats, and then you can say his release command when you're ready for him to go sniff. So you'd say free, and he could go back and run in the yard, sniff, go potty, play, anything like that. But then again, if you wanted him to come back to you, you would say come, and he's supposed to come, turn right away, turn his head. If you weren't to turn his head and come running right back towards you, you could correct him with the remote collar. Or if you're in an unfenced in area, I would recommend having a 20, 30, even 50-foot leash on him so that you have a safety net just in case. If he's in your backyard, obviously you wouldn't have to have that safety net because you would have the remote collar and a fence around him just in case he wasn't listening. But if you're in an unfenced in area, maybe you're in the front yard and that part isn't fenced in, or you go to the park, anything like that, I would always have a safety net leash on him just for safety purposes. In the video here when we're at the park that you'll see in a few minutes, you can see that he has paracord, which is just a super thin long leash attached to him just in case. We always take that for safety precautions. So again, I would always keep him on some sort of leash if you are in an unfenced in area. And then if you're in your yard, obviously you would have the fence as your safety net for if you weren't to listen. But if you weren't listening, you would have the remote collar, so you would just push his button and correct him, remind him. So you would say no, press your button, remind him what he's supposed to be doing, so come, and then you would be fun and exciting and get him to come back into your space. So that's come when called. Again, you want him always turning his head as soon as you say that and running back towards you, and you want to be fun and exciting. You have to be more exciting than, say, a squirrel runs by. You want to be more exciting than that squirrel. So be fun, exciting, back up to welcome him into your space, and then give him that target to put his nose onto. So that's come when called. or recall. His next command is leave it. So leave it is leave something on the ground that you don't want him to have. So always practice this with dog safe foods first. So his treats or chicken or anything that's okay for him to eat. So if you're having chicken one night, you can practice with chicken, his food, or his treats. Always practice with those dog safe foods first. And so you would drop something, you'd say leave it, then you'd give him something else, and then you would pick that up off the ground. So that's leave it. Again, always practice with dog safe foods first, and then you have that command just in case you drop a pill on the ground and you don't want him to have it. So you would say leave it and then give him something different so that you would have time to pick that pill up. Again, that's leave it. Always practice with dog safe foods first, and then you have that command for if you were to drop pills or spill something on the ground that you didn't want him to have or that was dangerous for him. So those are his commands, and now we'll show them to you. But first let's talk about the collars. So this is his Prong Collar. Looks scary. It's not going to hurt him. To take this off and put it on him, you just want to push up and pull the links apart, and then you would put it around him. To put it back together, you would put one side in this little hoop and pinch it back together and slide it back in. It will get easier after time because this metal will loosen up, but since it's a newer collar, it's still a little hard. So again, put one side in, pinch them together, and slide it in. So that's the Prong Collar. It fits on his neck like this. And then to correct him, if you're walking him with his leash and he were pulling a little ahead of you, you just say no, quick, pop, and release. So you want to make sure it's a pop and release. If there's always tension on this collar and it's always in a triangle, that means that it's always making this triangle here. That means that the collar is too tight on him because it's always giving him those little pinches and corrections. So you want to make sure it's nice and relaxed, and if you were to pull ahead, quick, pop, and release. So quick, pop, and release. Sometimes it may take more than one pop and release to get him back into your space, but just quick pops and releases, and then as soon as he's in your space, you have a nice relaxed leash again. Again, you want to make sure that this is always pops and releases and nice and relaxed. That way he doesn't get used to the collar. So that's the Prong Collar. And then for the remote, we're only going to go over part of it now because it's a lot of information, so I'll go over the rest towards the end of the video. But this is your collar and this is your remote. To turn on the collar, there is a little red key here, just a little circle, and on the collar there's another red circle. So to turn the collar on, you're going to match these two together, tap them together until you see a green light. The collar will now flash green every couple of seconds to let you know that the collar is on. If it flashes orange or red, that just means that the collar needs charged. And then the remote, on the back of the remote, to turn the remote on, there is a large circle button in the middle with an L on it. So you will press and hold that button until the screen lights up. That shows you that the collar is turned on. It has a blue light. Sometimes that is shining, sometimes it is not, but as long as you can see the numbers on the screen, that means that the remote is on. So now that the collar and the remote are on, we'll go ahead and show you how to correct him with the remote. So we're gonna say that my hand is Maverick's neck, and if he were to again pull ahead of me on a walk or pull ahead of you guys on one of his walks, the black S button to the side, so the back, there's two buttons here, a black one and a red one. We're going to be using the black S button. That's his correction level. So again, if you were to pull ahead of me, I would say no, press the button, and then remind him heel or down or whatever command you have him in. So again, if you were to pull ahead of you on a walk and you had him in a heel, you would say no, press his black S button, and then repeat the command heel. So again, no, heel. That just reminds him what he's supposed to be doing, and you've given him a warning. Eventually the no will be a correction in itself, but while he's still learning, if you were to go ahead, no, button, heel. His level is 35 right now. I'm feeling that on my hand. It's uncomfortable. It's not the best feeling. It's not my favorite feeling, but it doesn't hurt and it's not terrible. So it's not hurting him. So that is his level. I will show you guys the rest of the features of the remote later towards the end of the video, just because it's a lot of information. But to turn the collar off, tap them together till you see it flash red, and hold this black L button until the screen turns off. And those are his collars and his commands. So now we'll show you his commands. Hey. Hey. Good boy. Good job. Sit. In training.
Oh, I had a German Shepherd when my dad told me that it was a Chihuahua for my 3rd grade birthday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he lived to be, oh my God, he was really old. He was, he died in August of 81, so I'm 60, going to be 63.
Oh,
so
wow.
But it wasn't a Chihuahua.
Yeah.
What's his name?
His name is Mav.
Mav.
Yeah.
Hi, Mav. You're a good dog.
Thank you.
So you're training him to be a service?
No, he's just in obedience training.
Oh.
Yeah.
You can tell.
Thank
Where
you.
do go?
We work with Paw Day and Canine Suites, just up the road.
Where?
Paw Day and Canine Suites.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My daughter took her dogs to your place.
Yeah.
They need to take their Siberian Husky. That dog is wild.
All right. Thanks. Have a good day.
Too.
Shipping. Why order some low-dose sildenafil from one of those subscription services when we can give you what you want now? Call 800-711-6818 and we'll rush your order discreetly packaged to your door. Been thinking about trying Viagra or Cialis? Call U.S. Pharmacy at 800-711-6818 for as little as only $119 for 90 pills. Need your package in a hurry? Call 800-711-6818 and ask about our express shipping option. And we'll rush your order to you as soon as possible. See if finding this little you've been wanting to try. 800-711-6818 now. That's 800-711-6818.
Take it over. We've got him in the back.
Down. Down. Good boy. Good down. Down. Good boy. Good down.
Santa wants to remind you the gift of a Butterburger from Culver's is a great Christmas gift idea. Gift certificates from Culver's.
Good down, Mavi. Down.
Available in any amount you can buy them. The delicious taste of Culver's. Juicy made-to-order Butterburgers, amazing cheese curds, creamy custard, fresh salads, soups, and more. Stop in the Culver's and Danville while out shopping and grab a bite. Happy holidays from everyone at your Danville Culver's.
Good boy. Good down. Good down. Down. Free. Good boy. Sit. Good treat. Leave it. Good boy. Okay. Leave it. Good boy. Okay. Place. Good boy. Good boy. That's a good boy. Place. Good job. You got this. Place. Good place. 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 Good. Good place. Good boy. Place. Good boy. Good place. Good boy. Break. Yeah. Okay, so now that we've shown you all of Maverick's commands, we're gonna go over his collars more in depth. So again, this is his prong collar. To put it on him, you will push up and pull apart. That's how you get it apart, and then you would put it around his neck. To attach it again, you would put one side in and pinch them together. If you try and put one side in and then pull the other one through, that won't work. So you have to make sure to pinch them together and put it right into that spot. So again, you want this on his neck. It can be anywhere on his neck. It doesn't have to be in a certain position or anything, but you want to make sure this is nice and relaxed. Then if he were to pull ahead of you, no, quick pop and release to get him back into your space. Again, if you have to use more than one, that's okay. You can use 2 or 3. Sometimes it just takes more to get his attention back to you, but quick pops and releases. You don't want to have him pulling and have it tight, or just have it tight right next to you. I know you're used to him pulling, so you're used to having it tight, but instead of having it tight, now you want to make sure to have it nice and relaxed so that he knows he's doing the right thing and he doesn't get used to the collar. So that's his prong collar. And then again, for his remote collar, the little red key, tap it to this little red key, green light flashes to show that it's turned on. Then the black L button in the middle, hold until it turns on. So his current level is 35. This is pretty normal that we send dogs home with, so you may have to raise it if he's more excited, or he may be more comfortable at home with less distractions, so you may be able to lower it. But we're gonna say that my hand is his neck. If you were to pull ahead or get up from a sit stay or up from a down stay or get off his place bed, no, black S button, and you would remind him what he's supposed to be doing. So no, place, to remind him to get back on place, no, down, to remind him to stay in a down, or no, button, sit, to remind him to get back into a sit. So that is his correction level. Next, there is a red button right under. So his correction level is at 35. The red button boosts him up to 75. I have not had to use this with Maverick, but it is his boost feature. So this would be for emergencies only. You don't want to press the red button unless you absolutely have to, because it does bump him up to 75. This is to get his attention if he runs out into the road and you need to get his attention right away because there's a car coming, or he's chasing an animal and something dangerous has happened or could happen. So you want him to come back to you right away. You would press the red button to bump him up to 75 and to get his attention. So you would press it until you got his attention, until he started coming back to you. So again, this is the boost feature. It bumps him from 35 to 75, and that's for emergencies only. We have not had to use that with Maverick yet. So that's his correction level and his boost feature. On the other side of the remote, there is a black T button. This is the vibrate feature. We haven't used this with Maverick before, and we don't use it often. I don't recommend that you use it often, but you can use it every once in a while to get his attention. He just will get used to the vibration level quickly, so it won't do anything to correct him. But to use that, if you were going to, it's the black T button. You'll hear it vibrate on the box. That just vibrates the collar. So that is the vibrate feature. Next, on the back of the remote, there is that black L button that we use to turn on the remote. So to turn on and off the collar, we press and hold that button until the screen turns on or off. But if you tap it it turns on the flashlight feature. So if you tap it once, that flashes the light. If you tap it a second time, the flashlight comes on and stays on. And then you tap it again to turn it off. So once to make it flash, twice to make it stay on, and a third time to turn that off. And then again, that black L button is used if you hold it to turn on and off the remote. Next to that black L button, there is an M/C button that's smaller to the side. That changes the collar from momentary to continuous. So Maverick is on momentary right now. The continuous is used in the beginning when we introduce the collar at very low levels, but he doesn't need that anymore, so you don't need to mess with that M/C button on the back of the remote. Then there's the antenna. That just helps connect the remote and the collar. On the back of the collar is the charging feature. So there's this little thing. You want to make sure that that's closed when the collar is not charging. And lastly, on this remote, there is the dial. Right now, I can turn it. It does not do anything because it is locked in place. We have him set at 35 and we have it locked. That way we don't accidentally change it in our pocket or in our hands, anything like that. But he's at 35 right now. If you were to take him to the park or the store or even outside in your yard and there's a lot of animal distractions or noise distractions, smells, anything like that, and 35 is not high enough, to change that, you would hold down on this until it flashes. That changed it. So he is at 35 right now. If I wanted to change it because I needed to move it up because he had too many distractions and he's not 35, he's not responding to 35, or if he's in the house and there's less distractions and he's being really good and 35 is too much for him and you wanted to lower it, you would hold that dial down until it flashed for you, and then you can move it up or down. So you can move it up or down, but again, you only change that if it's too much or too less for him, and if he's not responding or if he's responding too strongly for it. So we'll put him back to 35, and then to lock that back in place, you will press the dial down to lock it in. So now it is locked again and we cannot change that. So that's the remote. On the collar, there are prongs here that are what help it reach his neck and reach his skin. These are already the long prongs. There are shorter prongs in the box, but since he has that longer, thicker hair, we do already have the longer ones on him. Then again, there's the light. So that flashes green to show that it's on and charged. If it flashes yellow or red, that just means that you need to charge the collar. Underneath the collar, by where the prongs are, there is another little part to charge the collar. So if it starts flashing red or yellow, that's when you would want to plug it in. But again, always make sure that that is nice and closed as soon as you take it off the charger. The collar is waterproof, but again, you always want to make sure that on the collar and the charger, those are always closed completely to help protect the collar. And then if he gets in the water or if he's out in the rain because you let him out to go to the bathroom and he gets wet, you want to make sure that you take the collar off and you dry really good under there, because if it's left on, then his skin is wet, so he may get a sore under there. So if he gets wet, if he goes swimming, anything like that, you always want to make sure to take the collar off and let it dry really good. So again, the collar is waterproof, but you want to make sure to dry him off really good. He can wear the collar for 10 to 12 hours a day, but you want to make sure to take it off at night. So when you get ready to go to bed, or if you're putting him up in his crate for the night, you can take the collar off. That way his neck gets a break from it, because if this is left on for too long, he will just get a sore just like any other collar because it'll rub. So you want to make sure to take it off at night, give his neck a break, give his skin a break, and then you can put it right back on first thing in the morning. There is a bungee on the collar, so you just clip it and unclip it to get it on and off. But if it were to get too tight because he grows any, or if he loses some weight and he gets a little thinner and you need to change it at all, you would just undo this latch just like any other collar, and you would put it around his neck, fit it to his size, and then you could go back to using the bungee. So that is the features of the remote and collar. Again, to turn it off, you want to touch the two red keys, and wait till you see that red flashing light, and that turns the collar off. And then for the remote, press and hold until the screen goes off. So those are his prong collar and his remote collar. This is the box for his remote collar. On the back of it, there is a website that you can go to and contact information, contact them, and you have a warranty on the collar. It says that it reaches a half mile and that it is waterproof, so again, it can go in the water, but always make sure that you have those charging parts closed all the way and that you dry them off really good. Inside the box, there is a little tool that tightens and loosens the prongs, and there are also the shorter prongs. As you can see, these ones are short, so the long ones are already on just because of his hair type. So that is in there. There's also the original latch or strap that the collar came with if you wanted to change that out and didn't want to use the bungee. And then there is the charging cord, so that you can charge the collar and the remote at the same time. There's two different things, you can charge them at the same time. And then under all of that is the instruction manual if you wanted to go in more depth with the collar at all. So those are his collars and his commands. Again, make sure that you're staying consistent. So when Maverick is doing something that you like, especially for the first two weeks, but even for longer, you want to make sure that you are rewarding him for the behaviors that you like. So if he is good, he's being calm, giving you behaviors that you like, reward him with praise, petting, and treats. But if he decides that he doesn't want to listen or decides that he wants to get up from what you had him doing, you can correct him with both the remote and the prong collar. I would recommend leaving his leash on for the first week or two just so that he can get used to having all of these rules in the house, because he's going to want to go back to how it was before, because he still remembers how it was before training. So I would recommend leaving his leash and collar on, especially for the first couple weeks, just so that you can remind him in the house. And then once you've shown him where everything is and reminded him and everything, you can go ahead and take the leash off in the house and just use the remote collar. But again, when you're introducing stuff in the house, I would recommend having that leash on him. I would also still recommend crating him, just because he does still kind of have the brain of a puppy, so it is perfectly okay to put him in a crate when you're not going to be able to keep an eye on him and watch him. But again, reward the behaviors that you like. It takes 2 to 3 weeks for a dog to learn a behavior, so he's learned all the behaviors and commands that we wanted him to, but it takes 4 to 6 months for those commands to become permanent memory and long-term memory for him. So we want to make sure that we are consistent with him, have fun with him so that he enjoys the training and enjoys having a job to do, but reward him when he is doing something good. So make sure you're correcting him when he's doing things that you don't like, but it does give him a job to do. So just like when you go to work, you want to get paid for doing that work, you want to make sure to pay and reward Maverick when he is being good and when he is listening and doing those jobs. So keep treats on you, give him treats, reward him with praise and petting, make sure that you're consistent with everything. So be consistent with his training and make sure to show him what your expectations are. But stay consistent and have fun.